Hey YouTubers, Joe here with JoeGustafson.com. I am primarily a real estate photographer and wedding filmmaker. Other things are corporate headshots and some other portrait work like senior photos, but the majority of my time is spent shooting real estate. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to walk you through and show you how I shoot the Flambient. I don't do HDR because I feel like you don't have enough control over that. I feel like the method that I use gives you the most control with the least amount of time and effort. And so I've set up a little system where I can do a Flambient whole shoot. This is a 1,300 square foot, your typical 3-bed. This one had 1 bath, so 3-bed, 1 bath, 1,400 square foot home, less than an hour, about 45 minutes. The edit, also about 45 minutes. Usually my edits take about as long as I was on site, typically. So I shoot with the Olympus Micro Four Thirds EM1 Mark II for the photos, and I shoot the EM1 Mark III with ProRes RAW for the interiors. Pretty much anything video I do for use ProRes RAW. And the lens I'm using is the Leica 7.5mm f2, which I'm filming this episode on right now, and I'm actually at f2 right now. Typically with this lens, because it's Micro Four Thirds, I can actually get away with shooting at f2.8 and even f2 for video. So if you know anything about crop factor, sensor size, and I had this argument with somebody on Facebook before because I told everybody that I was shooting at f2.8 for a lot of my real estate photos, and they were yelling at me thinking I need to at least be at f7.1 or f8 always. And I told them, well, I shoot on Micro Four Thirds, so everything's in focus at f2.8, which is true. From 3 feet to infinity, if you have your focus set correctly, then everything will be in focus, even at f2.8. But the nice thing about Micro Four Thirds, you have the same light gathering as full frame f2.8. That doesn't change. Because it's Micro Four Thirds, everything is a 2 times crop factor. f2.8 is really f5.6. So that's why everything appears to be in focus, because you're shooting a full frame equivalent of the f5.6 on a 15mm lens, which is the 7.5 Leica. So with that being said, now when you're looking at my images, you'd be able to determine whether or not Micro Four Thirds is for you. And I personally believe that Micro Four Thirds for real estate is the best camera setup by far. Let me take you in right now to Lightroom, and I'll show you the 2 images, and we're going to composite them into Photoshop. Let's go. So here's my ambient shot, and here's one flash shot, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to light this area up over here with 1 shot. So what I did was I came around the corner, and if you came around the corner here, there's a flash sitting up on the top of a refrigerator, and you can see the light blue being a little bit there, but that's not an issue. I'll show you how we're going to fix that. And also you can see my umbrella, which, by the way, I shoot every flash shot, typically every flash shot, with a shoot-through umbrella with an 8200 on a pole, so I can hold it up and tip it down a little bit. You can see about where I did, where the ceiling's got some hot spot, whatever. So yeah, so these are the 2 images. We're going to use this one in my ambient shot. Now, I've created presets, and this is just a starting point. Come up here, and what I typically do is I will run my camera on auto white balance for photos only, but I usually click as shot. That gets me pretty close. I can tell it's a little blue, but in this tutorial I'm going to show you everything I do in order to correct for white balance as well. So I usually do it a little bump like this, and what I do is normally leave my highlight and black clipping on, so I can tell if I'm clipping the whites. In the windows, I really don't care because we're going to use the flash for the window. And I'll bring up my shadows a little bit, just make sure I get some more light in there. That looks good to me. Let's go over to the flash shot that we're going to use. And I've already fixed this one. You see I dropped the highlights. We'll just reset it so you can see what it did look like. See how that corrects for camera distortion. Go to as shot. I like to bring down those highlights, gives me the windows, and that's really typically all I do for a window pull is whatever the, I bring shutter speed down just enough to where I can see out of the windows, and pop my flash until it's well lit. So let's merge these two. Edit in, open in layers in Photoshop. Alright, once they're merged into Photoshop, all you need to do at this point is make sure that your ambient layer is on top and your flash layer is on the bottom. And all you're going to do is come up here, make sure your ambient layer is highlighted, click on opacity, drop that to about 50%. I think that looks pretty good. Then you're going to click, if you want to bring those windows back, you're just going to click on the mask right here. Make sure your paintbrush is on black, and we're just going to reveal that window underneath. And typically with your flash shot, you still have enough light around the windows so you don't have to be too careful. And that's it. Just paint those back in, just like that. And that's it. One other thing I want to show you is, notice how the TV has some reflections. Some people put a picture in there, or they do a gradient, make it look like the light's hitting it. I just think that looks too fake. Here's a way to really clean it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this image. We're going to duplicate the layer again. We're going to come up here to our pen tool. Let me zoom in a little bit. This is how I like to clean up TVs. I'm just going to make a point within the screen, not the entire TV, just the screen of the TV. And we're going to right click and we're going to go fill path. And we're going to go up here to color, click on color, and I'm going to choose black and hit OK. Hit OK. Now, that looks fake, but what we're going to do is we're going to take and drop the opacity down. I like to come down, depending on how much glare there was originally. I want to still see glare. So we got that. Let's toggle it on and off. It definitely darkened it. Right click again, delete path. Let's back out. Here's a trick that I've learned to really fine tune the color and control color casting. Ready for this? We're going to Command J to duplicate the layer, come up here to filter, blur, and then average. So when you do this, this should look gray, and it does. So we are actually, I shut the lights off and I made, there wasn't harsh sun coming in, and we used flash. Another advantage of using flash is when you don't have any other competing colors with your flash, that you get correct color. Now, here's what we can do to check this though, to make sure this is 50% gray, which I'm assuming that's what blur, or the average, means. We're taking an average of RGB, which is gray. Let's come down here to curves layer, and then click on the middle eyedropper here, and then click anywhere in the image. Changed it a little bit. It looks like it brought down the blues and bumped the reds a little bit. So we'll toggle that off. Now to check it, you just click this off, and then toggle on and off. You can see a little change. That's off. Looks a little greenish, a little magenta. So if you feel like it pushed it too much, you can always come up here to the opacity and start playing with that opacity. Sometimes I'll bring it down to like 75 or 80. Toggle it on and off. It changed it slightly, but for the better. I like it. Again, we're going to flatten this image. Hit OK, because we don't need that other layer. Command S to bring it back into Photoshop, folks. Okay, and I'm going to do my interior final bump again, and bring down those blacks a little more. Bump that contrast. And that's it, folks. That's how you can do a Flambient pretty quick. It usually takes me, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute per image. 30, 35 images, you're done in about 35 minutes, 40 minutes. So, for more tutorials, click that subscribe button. Go back and look at some of my older videos. If you are a Micro Four Thirds shooter and you have the EM1 Mark III, as you all know, the Atomos Ninja 5 released the ability to shoot ProRes RAW now, and that's what I shoot with my real estate. So you can go back and watch some of my old real estate videos. I'm going to be doing more tutorials and explaining the pros and cons of shooting with ProRes RAW, specifically with real estate, and some of the issues that come along with doing that, the advantages, which there are plenty, because now you're shooting 12-bit video as opposed to 8-bit, but there are some disadvantages as well, and we'll get to those in other videos. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and we'll see you guys in the next video.